Well, hi, everybody. This is DearMamaSal, and it is Friday afternoon. So that's our time to learn something new. And today, I've got a subject that I think will help quite a lot of us cope with what's going to be happening in the next few weeks. Dear Mama Sal is all about helping us cope with love life and other problems, and we welcome anybody that cares to listen in. Feel free to join us in the chat if you're here in real life time, and if you join us on the replay, then feel free to leave comments. And I just wanted to say that in case you're new, we're like an extended family of people that get together and we continue to try and improve our understanding of how to cope better with life. And the only way I'm going to cope better with life today is if I go get my coffee that is busy brewing. I'll be right back. Hang on a second. Isn't that wonderful? Okay, so hi to Jody, hi to Jeannie, and anybody else who's there. By the way, you don't need to join in on the chat. Hi, Isabel. It does look good, doesn't it? And you know something, Isabel? It is. As you can see, we've got blistering sunshine today, and I'm really pleased to hear that. I want to tell you that I have struggled this week. I ended up with with an ocular migraine, and if any of you don't know what that is, that's when your vision splits. And it has to do with pressure on the blood vessels and things or whatever. And I get it when the barometric pressure drops. In other words, we had a storm coming in, a big one, and it lasted for 3 days. And I should have realized there was a correlation between the two, but the next thing I knew, I don't know, when was it, about Tuesday? I suddenly, must have been Tuesday, yeah. But I literally, 1 minute I was fine, the next minute I wasn't seeing properly, and I went, oh, I know what this is. And unfortunately, it hung on for the longest time. And I'm beginning to feel a bit better today. But even then, I'm still not quite right. So just bear with me if I'm a bit sluggish today. We're going to be talking about differences. I want to try and help us all see things from different angles, because we're going to see a lot of things coming about in the next few weeks that are going to make some of you really mad, and some of you go, yeah, well, we have to do that. And what I want to make sure is that we can keep the balance. That to me is really, really important, to be able to keep the balance on these things. It's not that you have to agree with everything, but make sure that you can see it from all the different sides, because that will help you stress less about it. If you have a topic, by the way, that you'd like me to talk about, feel free to write to me at dearmamasal@gmail.com, and I'll certainly add it to the list. We do 3 broadcasts a week. The one on Friday, lunchtime, Pacific time. I'm pointing at myself because it's my time, Pacific time. That's what we call our skills one. Then we do one on Friday evening, which is the one that Jody, our admin, puts together for us. It's our laughter one, and she's done a great job for today. And then we do another broadcast on Sunday afternoon, which is where we sort of quieten things down and just really take a moment to reflect and get ready for the coming week. We call that our Soul Sunday broadcast. So just be aware. So we're going to be talking about differences, and I couldn't help but think of, for those of you who are old enough to remember Joni Mitchell's song, I Look at Life from Both Sides Now. And that is what I really am going to encourage you to do. I'm going to give you different examples of things just so that we can, practice it. And if you've got any, very strong beliefs on something, then feel free to mention it, and we'll try looking at it from all sides as a group. And I think when we do that, we learn a lot. And basically, a difference, and I thought I'd just check, I like to look at the proper definition of things. And differences are a point or a way in which people or things are not the same. Hi, Sandy, good to see you. So that's what we're looking at, is where we disagree with people, either to a small extent or a large extent. Now, let me ask you something, because you're smart people. When you disagree with somebody vehemently, now there's a 75-cent word, vehemently. That means very, very strongly. When you disagree with somebody very, very strongly, what does it do to your blood pressure? What does it do to your peace of mind? And we know, because we've been talking about this in sort of time and time again, sometimes being right isn't the answer, all right? Because I don't think there is a right. It's just different opinions. Yeah, Jeannie's saying it raises the blood pressure. Yeah. So what I want you to do is really, in the coming weeks, practice being above it. And that's what I'd have to say, practice being above it. And let's hope that some of these examples will help you see how to do that. I want to make sure that you understand the difference between differences and duplicitous. Now, there's another 75-cent word. Duplicity is when somebody is two-faced. They say one thing in public, but they say something completely different privately. And I'm pretty sure you've all met somebody that does that. And so make sure that we're talking about differences, not duplicity. Right. And so Jeannie's saying, yes, that we let go with people who are so opposite politically. Yeah, and we're going to be talking a bit about that, because I think it's important that we learn how to deal with that as well. And of course, now I've got a sniff. And I did take my antihistamines. For those of you who don't know, I suffer from allergies. Okay. So, hi, Nyasha, if I didn't say that, good to see you. And so what I'm going to do is just give you sort of different ways to balance things. And yeah, we'll be talking about your examples as well. So before I get into it deeply, I like to bring you what I call the scam of the week. And I got caught this week. Yeah, I did. Raising my hand. I saw something that was advertised that supposedly helped arthritis. And I sort of got a bit of a red flag, because Dr. Oz was, was associated with it. And you probably know that he's been associated with a lot of things that, obviously he was paid to say that or whatever. Anyway, so then but what I noticed was Dr. Phil also, they were together on this product. And I thought, well, I trust Dr. Phil. How many of you can see the difference there? From what I know about Dr. Oz, I don't trust him as much. But Dr. Phil, for some reason, I trust. Do any of you have that same belief system? Or what are your views? Would you trust something that Dr. Phil promoted? So anyway, Dr. Oz is real. Don't get me wrong, but he has been associated with a couple of products that weren't all that he said they were. So here is the thing. So I got caught in with the fact that Dr. Phil was attached to it. And I really do need some help with my arthritis. So I went ahead and I started to buy the product. And it was a trial product, and it would only cost you about $10. So, that was fine. Then when I was clicking through, I just want to show you this, because it's important for you to notice this. Here you've got your shopping cart, all right, and you're putting things into your shopping cart. And in most things, they give you a moment to look at what's in the cart and make sure you agree with it before you give it the okay and pay money. Hi, Sam. Sam saying, I would totally trust Dr. Phil, not Dr. Oz. And top of the afternoon to you. No, top of the morning. No, evening. it'll be top of the evening in Dublin. So do you understand? Now, what happened was I put it in the shopping cart. And then what happened was there was no check what you just bought. It just immediately went to here. And when it went to here, it had included two products that I had seen, what they call an upsell. They'd included two products that they had advertised. So instead of spending $10, I was now up to close to 50. Now, how many of you would be a little bit upset about that? And I don't mind telling you, I was pretty upset that Dr. Phil would be associated with anybody that did that. So here we go. What would you do? Because this is about differences. How many of you will just go, eye roll, oh, well, spend the $50 and let's move on? And, you know, some people would do that. And some of you would get incensed and go, I'm not putting up with it. It didn't give me a chance to look at what was in the shopping cart, Nyasha. It just immediately took my money. Yes, so Jeannie's saying she called a credit card company and refused to pay. They rescinded the charge. Well, I also did the same thing. So let's make sure that everybody knows what happened. So here was a purchase I did not agree to. I didn't intend to agree to anyway. So I phoned the credit card company. Now, that was interesting. That took time. And for some people, the time it takes to fix these things is not worth it to them. And that's their right. If they've got that sort of mentality, I understand that. So, but then the credit card company said, we can't rescind it yet because it hasn't actually gone through yet. It's pending, you know, it's in their system, but it hasn't actually been recorded yet. And they can only turn it around once it's recorded. So I said, you mean I got to go through all this again? Now, you know, it's me, you know, I don't do that well. So they said, well, you know, did you try calling the company and see if they will do something before it gets cleared? So I went, okay, let me try that. It's worth a try. So more time. I now pick up the phone and I phone the company. Okay, and when I phoned the company the first time, they said that the mailbox was full. Now that really got me going. And, but I didn't quit. I kept calling. So then eventually I did get through to them and I said, you know, I did not intend to buy those other two things. And, you know, when I went and rechecked that website, it had in very, very light gray, which I couldn't see at my age, very, very light gray, tick this box if you don't want the extra promotion or something. And I'm going, who would see that? Not me, that's for sure. Anyway, so I phoned them and I said, I just wanted the original product. I wonder if you'd be good enough to take give me credit back on the first two that you put on. And they said, well, you know, the reason that you got the special price on the one thing is because of the other two things. And I said, so you're telling me that the only way I get that special price that you're promoting without saying I have to buy two other things to get that special price, is that what you're telling me? Because that's false advertising. And anyway, do me a favor, just cancel the whole order. And then they magically said, no, we will send you the thing that you wanted. I said, that's exactly what I would like. Thank you very much indeed. So please be careful, everybody. Every week, if I hear of anything that's like this, I'm making sure that you all are aware. But do you understand? It probably took me an extra hour of my time, maybe more, to get to, and it, by the way, for those of you who are going, did they? Yes, they did. They did credit me back. So, but you understand, for some people, an hour of their time is worth a lot more than $50. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if you hear that somebody chose not to get their money back, be aware that for some people, their time is more valuable than that. Can any of you see that? That it's not, and I'll tell you, at one point, I did say to myself, is this worth the time I'm spending on it? And, on principle, the answer was yes. But I do remember that a very good lawyer said to me one day, Sal, be very, very careful of your principles. They will cost you a lot of money, and there is no guarantee that you will win. And in other words, be careful not to overdo your principles. We should all stand up for what we believe, because if we don't stand up for something, then we fall for everything, right? But, there are times when you just need to back down. And I just want to make sure you got both sides of that one. So I wanted you to know about it. And if you have any scams that you've seen, feel free to let me have them so that I can add them to the broadcasts and help people look out for them. I believe with the economy doing what it's doing right now, we're going to see more and more scams. And so I just need everybody to be doubly careful. Okay, here's my next one for you. And, I like to bring you examples from my life because I think life teaches me lessons all the time. So I'm outside in my front garden in my community here, and suddenly a guy comes walking up the street with a chow chow dog. Do you all know what that looks like? And if not, I will find a picture. Let me get that just in case. So he's coming up the middle of the community road with a chow chow dog off leash. I'm just trying to get you this picture. Okay, there we go. Looks like a good picture of a chow chow. Oops, not what I wanted. Okay, so that is a chow chow dog. That's a baby one, looks really cute. This is a dirty great big one that I saw. Yeah, this is what I saw. Oh, that wasn't what it was. Here we go. This is what was off leash. And the next thing is that it came onto my property. Now, it is a very cute looking dog, but it also is quite a nasty tempered dog. I just want to tell you just by terms of its breeding. And I've had a run-in with one once. So you understand my experience of chow chow dogs affects how I react to this one being off leash. Do you all understand that? So I looked at the owner and I said, I wonder if you could put your dog on a leash. And he said to me, it's fine, it's a nice dog. I said, sir, I got attacked by one of those once, and I'm scared of them. I literally am scared of them. And I wouldn't be scared of it if you kept it on the road. I'm scared of it because you allowed it onto my property. That means you don't have control. So he gave me the look from hell. So can you see it from my side that I had a fear of this dog because of my past experience? But can you also see it that the owner probably is now telling stories about the bitch from hell who lives, in my house? I understand that. But how many of you can see both sides of that? And I said to him, I don't mean to be a bad neighbor. I just need to tell you I'm scared of your dog. So please, get it under control. And funny enough, I saw him later and that dog growled at me, So by now I've set up a very good dynamic with this dog. But the point that I'm trying to make is there are two sides to this story. Right. So Jeannie's saying, too bad for him. I was bitten by a standard poodle, so I am somewhat fearful of those. Exactly. That would That is your experience, that they're not as cute as people think they are, right? So Niash is saying the dog came onto your property and he reacted that way. You should have captured it on camera. I can guarantee you he'll listen to you. No, I didn't need to capture it on camera. You know, this is like, I just needed to say something. And what I needed to say is, please keep your dog off the property. Now then, here, have you all got this story? Would you probably all agree that I was within my rights to say that? But now I've got a question that I think might throw you for a loop. What if the dog had not been a chow chow? What is if the dog had been a really cute fluff ball like Jody has, you know, a little Eskimo dog, looking as cute as could be? Would I react the same? See, that's what I had to think of, looking at both sides. And then I thought, well, my other neighbor came to visit me, social distancing. We were sitting outside and having coffee. And she brought her golden lab with her. And it was interesting because the first time she did it, the whole time that dog was going in and out of people's properties. And I said, being me, should he not be on a leash? Because obviously he's running around in and out of people's properties, and you don't know whether he's peeing or pooping or what he's doing in other people's properties. So I noticed the next time she came to visit me, she brought the leash. And I thanked her for that. And guess what? The dog just lay down quietly and didn't fuss at all. It looked much more relaxed, quite honestly. So, yeah, Jeannie's saying the size of the dog doesn't necessarily mean it's less dangerous. All right. So Jeannie is seeing that from both sides, which is just because it looks like a little fluff ball does not mean it can't bite you. Yeah, because they need to have more aggression to protect themselves. So it's an interesting thing, but I wanted us to see both sides of that. Can you see the side, though, of the owner? All right, which is, hey, he didn't do anything. Yeah, she's just being a bad neighbor. And I'm going, well, yeah, maybe I am. But it is still my right to ask for the dog to be on a leash, because I'm pretty sure that that's what's meant to happen. So that was one example of what happened. So part of what I wanted to ask you about was, are any of you concerned that they may be opening up the social distancing and the stores and goodness knows what else a little too soon? Have any of you got that going on in your mind, which is, and did you see what happened in Wisconsin? Is it Wisconsin? Yeah, Jeannie's saying in our home, our dog is not generally leashed. No, it's in our home, but outside it's different. Yes. And so I totally agree. All right. That in your home, what you do with your dog is totally up to you, as long as it's not bothering other people. So I'm totally in agreement. So I wanted to ask you, have any of you got any feelings, strong or otherwise, about what is happening now that they're starting to open up social interaction and the economy? How do you feel about that? Anybody got any feelings in terms of, do you think it's too soon? Let's hear how you all feel about that. Because however you feel about it will affect your peace of mind, affect everything, unless you've got balance. So let's see where we're at. All right, Jody's saying, very worried about the lifting of the regulation. I think it's dangerous. Yep, it is. We're going to go the other side of it just now, Jody. So let's see how everybody else feels. If anybody else has got an input on that, just put it in now so that we can see both sides. It's very dangerous especially for you, Jody. All right, interesting. Jeannie says, I'm glad that hairdressers and groomers are open. That tells us a lot about Jeannie, right? Both took great precautions, and I saw one at a time. Yeah, and so we know a lot about you, Jeannie, just that is what you were happy that got, you know, to me, it was like hairdressers about the last of my concerns. But I, yeah, that, so you understand the difference. Um, I just, to me, it's like, I do not see how you socially distance and cut hair. It's not quite my understanding of it, but that's just how I look at it because I cut my own hair. And so to me, it's like, now I'm looking at it going, and somehow or other in how I did it today, it looks like one side is longer than the other, which it isn't. Yes, but even that, Janie, you do know that even with masks on both sides, that doesn't stop the virus, right? You do know that. It limits it a bit, but it doesn't stop it. And as long as we are aware of that, you know, because I think a lot of people think, mind you, unless you're, I think if you're both wearing the N95s, then maybe so. And maybe that's what Jeannie was doing. So I want to make sure that we understand the risk. Jody's saying there is zero chance I'm going to a mall to get my hair cut. Yes, and that's the difference, Jody. Your hair is not that important to you, and therefore you won't take that risk. But it is that important to Jeannie, obviously, and that's why she took the risk. Rinsky's saying, hi, Mama Sal and friends. I always look forward to these live streams. Well, bless you for that, and we're always pleased to see you. All right, so Jeannie said, I decided to go gray at this time. Yeah, I want to tell you, best decision I ever made. And but we needed haircuts, yes. And a private salon. Yes, you know, look, you can give us all the reasons, Jeannie, but do you understand that some people will still roll their eyes and go, how could you take that risk? So Sam's saying, here in Ireland, we are starting the first phase of opening up some more stores and allowing groups of four people to meet. This starts on Monday. No idea if this will work. Okay, so this is why I wanted to talk about it, because I'm pretty sure a lot of you are pretty antsy. Now, you're going to either have Jeannie's mentality, which is, I will do the things that are important. My next door neighbor, by the way, is a big, you'll probably hear him banging away in the background during the broadcast because he's building a very nice planter box. But, you know, he goes to Home Depot at least once a week. And what I decided was, you know, that's his life. You know, he needs my T-shirt that says my toy store is Home Depot. But, you know, to him, going to Home Depot is a no-brainer. He has to go. He goes very early. You know, he goes 7 o'clock in the morning. And so what I decided to do was to go, he's not going to stop doing that. He's going to keep doing that. And so then I thought, hey, why don't I get smart? So I said to him, if I gave you the cash, is there any way you could pick up some things for me while you're there? Because this is called, if you don't care, maybe I can use that to my advantage. All right, so Sandy's saying, I have a feeling it's too soon, but I understand that some things have to open. Yes, and we're going to look at that for a second. And then Sandy's saying, I'm also worried that people will not still be careful. Yes, a big worry for me too. Niasha saying, I'm back, Mama Sal. I've just sent you a message regarding... Okay, I'll read that later if that's okay, Niasha, because I don't want to get away from the broadcast right now. And Sam saying, I worried that things may be too rushed. Here's the mentality in my neighborhood. Nobody was supposed to visit family, and I bet you everybody does. Yeah, we've got a lot of people visiting family at the moment. No doubt about it. Yeah, and they did it for Mother's Day. And you see, that is the whole thing. There is no way that the economy wants to go through a summer now without business, because for a lot of businesses, if you're talking anything that's tourist related, for a lot of businesses, summer is the time where they make money. So I was pretty sure we were going to have this opening up for the summer, even if we have to close it down again in the fall. And yes, so here we go. Jeannie's saying, and this is looking on the other side, some of these folks own their own businesses and need the money. I totally get that, Jeannie. I totally get that we need to support these people as well. So I can see that if your hairdresser is a private hairdresser, that you would want to keep that person with some money flowing. Totally get that. But I also know that Jody wouldn't take that risk because for her, if she gets that, that's a death sentence. And so, you know, Jody's saying to Sandy, I agree, Sandy, people around here were not observing the rules even when the strict regulations were in place. Interesting to think how they will react things now things are being relaxed. By the way, how many of you believe that we will still get the true figures of the number of cases and the number of deaths? Because it makes an awful lot of sense to me that there isn't going to be a keenness to keep the figures real. Why? Because they don't want to frighten people again. All right. So I think what they're doing, yeah, Jody said zero chance. I really honestly believe that they will, you know, the same as they were going to disband that task force, and then the public reacted. And so they kept it open, but now they called it something different, and now it's changed its focus. Have you noticed that? This is now all about the vaccine. This is not about the number of cases, whatever. And by the way, be very careful of the wording. What I heard this morning was that there will be this many million vaccines available by the end of the year. It didn't say we will be able to get it. It means they will have them stockpiled. But if that vaccine hasn't been cleared for distribution by the CDC or whoever does that in the States, then, it's not going to get released. It might be ready to be released. Do you understand both sides of that? So watch the wording. I also heard somewhere in a little thing that was said, and it'll be available at a good price. How many of you going, we're going to have to pay for this right now? And who's going to be making the money? Yeah, Nyasha is saying, and I remember that Nyasha's sitting in Trinidad and Tobago. She said, I'm scared also because in our country, in Trinidad and Tobago, while we haven't had any new cases in a week, they're getting carried away and starting to reopen the country. That's quite normal. Because if they don't reopen the economy, the price you will pay for a collapsed economy will be monumental. It may take a lifetime, a decade to even start to recover from that. So I want you to see both sides of this. So now let's take, because we're smart people, right? So let's take another look at it. Have any of you noticed there's a real push to get the children back to school? Yeah, and Rinsky saying, about this having to pay to get the vaccine. Yes, that's so sad. It's a payment to stay alive for some people. Yeah, the same as some people were being offered danger pay to go to work. That tells us everything, doesn't it? But I think what will happen is people think that just because they're opening things up, it's gone away. It's not so serious anymore. It's still there. It's still just as dangerous. The reason that the numbers came down is because we all stayed inside, and therefore we flattened the curve. You see, the idea of flattening the curve is to make sure that the number of cases do not exceed the number of hospital beds we have available to deal with them. You do get that, right? What you have to do is to get everybody away from getting infected so that the hospital beds aren't overrun to a great degree. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but I think it was Texas that opened up a week or so ago. And it was quite interesting because they actually were going like that, and then they opened up, and guess what's happened to their figures? Their figures have gone up past their previous high point. So that tells us everything. Yeah, Jeannie's saying we believe things are still serious, very serious. Yeah. Nyasha's saying, but things are just masked in my view because I do look at the international view and it's not good. So I'm thinking when it reopens, would we do international trade? I think international trade will take a bit longer. Sam saying that, Sam, is that a female Sam or a male Sam? I'm never sure. But Sam saying that he or she is worried about people being too casual about things. Look at what happened in Wisconsin. Everybody went to the pub, no social distancing, everybody laughing, coughing, doing whatever. Jeannie's saying nobody's been in our home for 2 to 3 months. Right. I haven't had anybody in my home since March 10, I think, somewhere like that. It's going to get worse again. Absolutely. Oh, Sam is female. That's what I wanted. Okay, Sam. So you understand that this is going to get worse. Are we all ready to hear that? I mean, that's the balance, right? They open it up, more people get infected, more people are going to die. However, one of my question was, did you notice that there is a real push to get the children back to school? Have you worked out why? I mean, that's what I want to make sure you get. All right. Because there is a good reason why they need children back in school. And what do you think it is? Do you think it's because they want them educated? What's your feeling? Let's see what we come up with. By the way, while we're waiting for that to happen, make sure you follow us on Facebook and Twitter, because that's where we let you know if we're doing a broadcast, but also subscribe here and hit the bell. And the bell's going to ask you, do you want all the notifications? And the answer is yes. And that way you'll always know when we're going to do a broadcast. So Rinsky says no, she doesn't think it's because of education. Jeannie's saying going to the beach is important to people in crowded cities. Yes, I can see both sides of that. Nyasha's saying, I'm going to make sure I protect myself and I hope that you guys do too. I'll be praying for all of you. Yeah, I'll be praying for the whole world. Because, all right, Jody's saying, is it about budget? Let's think about this, everybody. If you don't send children back to school, if you don't open up childcare as well, how can people go back to work? You see, it's all linked back to work. That's going to be the push, that people need to go back to work. Why? Because they need the economy. Now, look at it this way, and you're going, is that worth risking our children? Right? Some of you are going to say, that's not worth risking our children. Well, it's not just risking your children, it's risking everybody, because that's what's going to happen. And what I hate to say this, but what they've worked out is there's going to be a point at which they go collateral damage. And collateral damage means that is the price you pay for getting people back to work. Brinsky said it's not worth the risk, but it is for the economists. Well, Nyasha's saying, I never thought of it that way. It's all linked together. Wow, I'm just saying, make sure you understand the links. It's not that it's right or wrong. It's about that's why it's happening. They cannot get workers back to work if their children need daycare and their daycare isn't open or schools are not open. Therefore, a major part of getting the economy working again will be to get children back in school and to get childcare back. Does that make logical sense to you? Right or wrong isn't the issue. The issue is you have to have the children in school and daycares open to be able to get the majority of people back to work. Now then, the other thing that I think will happen, and I want to make sure that you're prepared, not scared, is that they will stop paying unemployment benefits to force people back to work. I think that will happen too. I hope I'm wrong, but if I think as an economist as opposed to a human being, if I can put it that way, because they're into numbers, right? They're not into other things, and which is how do we force people back to work? We make it, that they have to go back, and the way you do that is you take away the benefits. And I also understand, because I look at both sides, if I am a business owner and I'm watching my business go under unless I can open up the doors within the next 2 weeks, I understand they don't care about social distancing as much. I understand that they want things opened up again because they want to hold on to their business. Totally get it. Totally understand that. But the question is, how many people will die because of it? And we should be ready, right? Be prepared for that to happen, not scared. I pray that none of you are affected. But we already have the daughter of one of our viewers who has the COVID-19. And I think we will end up with more of people within our circle that have it because of this. Be prepared, not scared. So you all got it about schools, right? You understand where that fits into the big jigsaw. And you all understand that the vaccine will be available. That's what they're saying. They didn't say you can get it. It'll be ready, but not necessarily distributed. And so in December or November, which happens to be voting month, I believe, in the States and in Canada, but in November, they're going, we've got 28 million vaccines ready to go. But the CDC has to approve it. Guess what happened this week? How many of you know that there was a shift in the top people in the CDC? Somebody got reappointed this week. Yeah, it's all part of the jigsaw puzzle, right? Because they need somebody that's going to release that vaccine as opposed to somebody that's not. FDA, it's right, the Federal Drug Administration, I think that got changed, right? So that, they need somebody who's flexible. Yeah, not safe, flexible. Why? We're going to make a lot of money out of this. Sandy's saying, I've never been so happy that we homeschool. Yeah, I would thoroughly recommend that for anybody who can do it. So I hope that the discussion is making sense to some of you. Again, I'm not saying it to frighten you. I want to make sure you're prepared and not scared, right? It is going to be very scary for a lot of people. Yes, and Rinsky's saying, and what are the side effects of the vaccine? There are going to be hundreds of different vaccines that are going to try and get on the market. Which one will make it? I hate to tell you, the one that they can make the most money out of will probably be the one to make it. And not only that, how reliable is it? And so, just because there is a vaccine doesn't mean that it's going to work. Just be aware. All right, now then, here's a story out of something that I went down this week. I heard about one of my neighbors who had been locked inside because he has asthma, and his next door neighbor is a pot smoker. And the problem is that when the asthmatic smells the smell of pot, he gets an asthma attack. Now, I don't know what it is in the country where you live, but in Canada, smoking pot is now legal. So can you see this from both sides? Can you see that the guy that's smoking the pot is entitled to do that? All right? He's in his own home or on his own deck. but it's affecting the guy that lives next door to him. So I'm wondering, wise people, which side are you on? You know, how would you balance this one? Think about that. Because there is a limit to what you can do, and not, not infringe on people's personal freedoms, but what would you do? And I thought that would be something for you to think about. Jeannie's saying it's great to own your own home away from other homes. Yes, sure it is, but not everybody is that lucky. If you think about it, Jeannie, think how many people live on apartment buildings breathing recycled air with the virus going on. All right, so Jeannie relates to a certain degree because she said, my husband smokes cigarettes, but never in the house because I have asthma. Yes, so you understand that. And so, but what I found really interesting was, how do we do this? Wait a minute, what's Nyasha saying? But MamaSal, while there doesn't want social distancing due to the economy going under, they can't even protect themselves, wear masks. I didn't say that. I didn't say that, Nyasha. You made that up. People are wearing masks, some, most, I think. I do believe that most have hand sanitizer stations, yeah. I do believe people are being pretty careful in most cases. However, not in the bar that I saw in Wisconsin. They literally just opened the doors and people crowded in, and they were allowed to sit next to each other as normal in a bar and chit chat and shout and scream and cough and watch the figures. But the figures, I don't think the figures, we will see the true figures anymore. I think they'll stop showing us the number of cases, number of deaths, because it will not be pretty. And that's why we've seen a change in, we're no longer going to have, the COVID type task force. We've now got the, what do they call it? The rapid stealth, whatever they call it. It's going to just keep changing. Watch when they change focus. When they change focus, there's a reason. And that's what I'm saying. Jeannie's saying we will continue to wear a mask, wash our hands frequently, and use gloves. Yeah, absolutely. I ordered another box of gloves and more masks because I want to make sure that I have enough and also my neighbors, all right? So what we decided to do is to actually talk to the wife of the pot smoker and just not say anything except the reason that that neighbor was missing without trace at the moment was because he'd had a serious asthma attack that threatened his life, by the way, because somebody in the community was smoking pot outside. Anyway, so, what else can you do? You can't stop somebody, so you have to deal with it. And I think that's what I want you to understand. We're not going to be able to stop people from doing things. We're going to have to deal with it. All right, so Nyasha's saying, in my country, MamaSal, some won't even do such things. No, I understand that, Nyasha. I assure you that in America, some people are not doing that. I can assure you that in Canada, some people are not doing that. So we can't force people to do that. We can only suggest and ask them to. And now, the fact that they are lifting some of those restrictions, how many of you know some people will go, oh, it's over, I can go out now, it doesn't matter anymore. And I just want to make sure you're prepared for that. Yeah, Jeannie's saying, I heard a fellow in his 60s wearing a mask say he thought it was all a hoax. Yep, absolutely, until he gets it. By the way, I just wanted to give a heads up. It was Andy's birthday yesterday. So Andy, wherever you are, I hope you saw the note. We did drop one off for you. Hope you had a happy birthday. I feel sorry for Charlotte this week because our Charlotte was due to run a marathon on the 17th, and obviously that's not going to happen. And the next important function that I know of is that Jody and Lionel have a wedding anniversary on the 26th. So if any of you have got an important date between now and the end of the month, let us know so we can add it to our database. Yes, Sam saying we see it already here. Did I get the wrong date? Oh, it's the 27th, not the 26th. Okay, Jody, so feel free to go in and fix that for me. At least I got it close. Better too early than too late, Jody. Yeah, and Sam is saying that we can already see it here. People are just doing their own thing, and that's what's going to happen. And Jeannie, I'm glad that your daughter was happy and that we remembered her birthday. It's the same day as Manon's, and so it's now in the system. We will acknowledge it. Probably verbally rather than in writing, because it's I try to save the written ones for the people who are, long-time viewers. So now let's have another look at something. And I want to make sure that we understand what we're talking about is understanding the differences, right? Because it is important. How many of you believe, and I'm still going to stay political for a while because it's important, because that's where our blood boils, Are you more inclined to believe that President Trump is an abuser than Vice President Biden? And if so, why? And I want to make sure we got balance here. Because if you are capable of saying, I hold Vice President Biden to the same standard as I hold President Trump, and vice versa, if you can say that I expect this level, and therefore what one did in the past is, we also need to look into the past of the other. And if you're saying, well, that was socially normal then, well, so was this, unfortunately. So there's part of me that goes, make sure that you keep seeing both sides and that you keep it fair. Does that make sense? Doesn't matter what your politics are, keep it fair if you can. I am pretty certain that some of you will see the handling of all of this to be horrific, and some of you will think that there's been a great job done. That's the difference. Depends where you're looking at it from. And if you are looking at it from both sides, you will actually stress less. That is my goal. I'm not here to tell you who's right and who's wrong. I'm saying keep the balance. It will keep your stress level down. If something happened, like the change in the FDA or whatever it was, all right? And immediately I'm going, now hang on a second, there's got to be a good reason for that, right? And immediately I start working out, why would they want a change there? Why would they want to get rid of Fauci now, Dr. Fauci now? There's a good reason, right? Why do they want this to happen? There's a good reason. You see, and once I've worked it out, I go, okay, now I understand it. Don't have to agree with it, but I understand it. Therefore, I'm less stressed. All right, so Jeannie's saying, I hold Biden to a high standard, but truly believe something is wrong. He has Alzheimer's or something wrong. Too forgetful and too confused a lot. Yep, that's true. And she said, I'm sorry, nobody is helping him. Yeah, it's, I think there are, worries on both sides. So, it is, I think it'll be interesting to see if a third person comes into this race because of that. All right, so now let's take another subject altogether. Let's say that you hear that your neighbor's son commits murder. Okay, got that? Do you blame the family? I just want to see where everybody's. Are you saying he wasn't brought up correctly? Da 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 da. Or do you say he was an adult, he made his own choice for whatever reason, it's not on the family? What do you think? I can always remember talking to a very well-known local business person here one day, and he was almost in tears, and he wasn't the sort of guy that was likely to be in tears, because he said to me, Sal, I don't understand it. I brought up 4 wonderful children, and one of them got into drugs, and it doesn't matter what I have done. I have put her through rehab so many times, it's not even funny, and she still is into drugs. And I said, well, she's into drugs because of her own reasons. And so you need to understand that. And he said, where did I fail? I said, I don't believe that you did. Yeah, Jeannie's saying no. From personal experience, sometimes people cannot change their children no matter how much they try to help. Absolutely. And that's the story that I'm telling as well. And Sam is saying, if he's an adult, it's on him. Yeah. But you understand the pain of the family. And then Jody's saying, I don't blame the family, although I understand there can be influences on how they were raised. But, you know, as I said, you've got this businessman who brought 4 children up. 3 of them turned out to be entrepreneurs, did really well in their life, just happy, adjusted, whatever. And then there was this one. And so, to me, I don't think it's the parents' fault. I don't think it's the family's fault. I think that we are each accountable for our own behavior. And if we have issues and we don't bother to get help for them, and we are adults, think about that. All right, Jeannie's saying there is great pain in the family. One wonders what went wrong, but it's not our fault. Yes, we can care, we can share, we can do what we can, but we did not create it. I think it is very, very important for us all to remember that. Some of us know people who've been abused, and you go, did they create that? Or was this an abuser? You know what I mean? You got to look at the side, both sides of it. And what I want you to do, if you can, is to be aware that unless we see both sides, I understand that it's easy to say, well, the reason I did this was because of my upbringing. I understand that. We love to blame things, don't we? But we made a choice. If we made the choice, then we are accountable. And, I understand that sometimes there are mitigating factors. In other words, there are reasons that should be thought about. If you are being beaten within an inch of your life, and you do something that protects you from being killed, that's a mitigating factor. Yes, Jeannie, and I think that is the one thing that we all need to look at, all right, which is, but if your upbringing of your children was okay, whose is, Jeannie? Seriously, why blame the parents? Yeah, but, with all due respect, none of us is a perfect parent, right? So what's okay? That's pretty subjective, isn't it? Yeah, we spent years trying to help our child. Yeah. Exactly. So you can only do so much, and then you have to realize this is their choice. And if people choose to be stupid and not socially distanced, if people choose to be stupid and not get help, if it's available. Don't get me wrong. And if people choose not to change, we cannot make them do that, people. And if you want to lower your stress levels, the sooner you work that out, the less stressed you will be. If you talk to people who are very zen, very, calm, they don't worry about what other people are doing. It doesn't mean they don't care. It doesn't mean that they don't want to be able to help. But, it's not part of their life. Okay, let me see if I can understand what Sam's trying to say here. There was a case here years ago where a son killed his sister's boyfriend one night on their way home. We knew his mother from dealing with her company and work. There's more to the story. Yeah, Ginny, do you want me to repeat that? I just want to double check. I like to be doubly aware that this is going to go on the replay. So I prefer to double check that. Okay, so let me finish with Sam's and then I'll go back to Jeannie. Jeannie, if I miss it, just take me back there, please. Sam saying about the case about her son killed the sister's boyfriend one night on their way home. We knew his mother from dealing with a company and work. We would never have thought her son would do something like that. Yes, people do strange things sometimes. And I want to tell you, when people have been locked up for as long as people have, they do more strange things. Have any of you seen the statistics on how much abuse there has been over the last month? The numbers have gone up. And you're going, really? Yes. Because people can't cope with not having control. All right? And that's why I'm trying to make sure that my viewers understand we cannot control. Even if we want to, we cannot control others. We can control ourselves. Now, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't, object to things that you think are wrong. If you want to go out and protest, that is your right. You understand? And I I vote to make sure that that people have the right to do that. I won't necessarily be doing it, but I do understand the difference. So Jeannie said here, and that the story that she was telling about the family member, she said things are better now. No drugs, no alcohol, thank goodness. But mental illness, yeah. We are going to need to do a lot of work on mental illness on the coming 5 years. There are going to be a lot of people who are going to be just a little bit scarred from being locked up for so long. Jody's saying, my cousin was raised with privilege, early life and education, got into serious trouble with the law for many years ago. Yep, it happens. And Sam is saying, that's why I feel children need to go back to school. Yes, for some people, school is a place where they get a meal. Think about that. And for some children, school is the safest place to be. I want to tell you that I used to love going back to school. And I was at boarding school. I wasn't at day school. I was at boarding school. And I used to be so excited to go back to school. And, I've often thought, why? Well, think about it. I lived in the equivalent of a miniature Downton Abbey on 3,000 acres of land. I didn't have children to play with all the time. So going to school, there were people of my age and I could play with them. I had rules that I really understood and consequences that I really understood. I was able to be social, which was very big. I spent most of my life on the farm riding horses because that was my entertainment. And so, yes, I looked forward to school, and I looked forward to being the star at, a lot of sports. I was very athletic. It's surprising to hear, but I was. And, it was like I had a lot of good reasons to like school, even if it meant I was away from my family. But to me, in some ways, I really enjoyed that. Makes sense. So going back to school for kids is not necessarily a bad thing, but for their health, we are now finding out that maybe, um, children are getting a form of this virus that is just showing up differently in children. All right, so this is interesting. Nyasha is saying that, and she's sorry to include her life here, but she said, I've been cursed my entire life by my dad. I've been told to grow up, but wasn't taught how to. Recently, I blew up on him due to his insults towards me. No, you blew up because of your lack of control. Nasha, I'm not going to let you get away with that, right? If you blew up, it's on you. I understand he was insulting you, but you are responsible for your behavior. Right? And then she got him back as bad. Yeah, so she sees that. And that's really what we do here, is we make sure we understand that we are responsible for our own behavior, not somebody else's. Remember the business about the dog on my property? If I don't set the boundary, it's on me. All right, Sam is saying, a good friend of mine is a school teacher, and you don't realize how many sad stories there are until you hear about them. It's a rock and a hard place situation now. That is 100% what I believe, Sam. I think if we don't send the children back to school, the economy will be devastated. If we send them back to school, we will be able to restart the economy, but at what cost? But I think what we have now is a situation where it is the cost that we're going to have to take. That's what's difficult. But some of us will remain very careful. Joanne Ross said, life consists of two sides, light and dark, joy and sorrow. Without a balance, one cannot fully experience a full and well-rounded life. So do you understand that? I want to go to that. Okay. Growing your own vegetables requires that you are prepared to fail. Does that make sense? If I'm not prepared to have at least half my seedlings, keel over and die, then I am not being realistic. All right? Because that's what seedlings do. So I look at it and go, I like to make sure I stay in balance. I want to make sure I understand what is the motivation behind this. Do I agree with it? Not necessarily, but do I understand it? Yes. Are you getting that story now? Yeah, Jeannie's saying the same as I said just now. Children are hungry physically and eat at school. Yeah, I said that. That's the bean. And by the way, I thought what I'd show you is this is what it's like today on Friday, right? It's got, it had two leaves here, which I took off, but it's got two big leaves and two small leaves. I thought it might be interesting to see where it's at on Sunday because you can see just how big it grows. I'm waiting for it to get a really solid root ball, and then I'm going to grow it hydroponically because I want to know, will it grow hydroponically? I have 3 of them already in the garden, just so that you know. And all right, just talking about the hydroponics, just so that you all know, this is that original lettuce, still growing beautifully. Jody, we reckon this was mid-April, right, that we had this. So this is over a month old, and it's still growing. This is about 2 weeks old, and the roots are through. See the roots at the bottom there? Growing beautifully. This one is about a week old. Roots aren't coming out yet, but they will. And what I'm waiting for is I've ordered up 2 more lettuces, and they're going to be, then I will have 5, and I think 5 will basically keep me going pretty well. I take, I take a few leaves off the front one every day to add to my salad. And so I'm not quite self-sufficient with it yet, but I want to see how long that first lettuce lives. And, that's really what I want to do, is to show you how much is a lettuce. Hi, Jamie. I think a lettuce today is close to $5, a butter lettuce, still growing. So if I will spend $25, I might have enough lettuce to last me all year. And that's over and above what I'm trying to grow as seeds. But boy, I want to tell you, are those seeds difficult to grow? Radishes jump out at you. They're easy to grow. Beans, they grow a foot in a week. Easy to grow. But lettuce, not so much, people. I want to tell you. I understand why lettuces are expensive now. How many of you agree with this one? Every truth has 2 sides. It is as well to look at both before we commit ourselves to either. Yep, Jody's saying, I just paid $4.98, yep, for a package of spring mix. Just the package, right? Now, Jody, I spent that amount of money on one group of spring, 3 different lettuces, but growing. Do you understand? So which is economically the better deal? If I put those ones in to continue to grow hydroponically, I think buying the ones with roots on them and growing them hydroponically makes an awful lot of sense. Yeah. And by the way, it doesn't, I think I can fit, well, obviously I can fit 4 into a shoebox. So I'm beginning to think I'm going to put almost shelving down my windows for the winter, right? So they get the maximum amount of light. Right, there we go, Nyasha. Nyasha's saying, yes, Mama Sal, I agree with you. I did lose control. I am taking full responsibility for it, and I am going to be messaging a professional about it soon to get some help. Yes, I am so proud of you. You're looking after you. Interesting. Jeannie said, because of you, I recently planted several sweet green pepper seeds. Yes, I took red pepper and orange pepper seeds and planted them. And in case somebody's watching that doesn't know how we do that, when you finish cutting up a pepper, just take this and leave it to dry. And once it's dry, you can plant the seeds. By the way, I just crumble them up, individual seeds, and I plant about 6 or 10 at a time. So you will be amazed. By the way, the greatest success I've had on store-bought that I have put into the garden is the leeks. I want to tell you, if you've got ground there, Jeannie, so you can do this without any problem at all. I literally brought, a leek. Does everybody know what a leek is? And I just cut off the bottom and kept it in water for a couple of weeks. And then once I knew it was starting to grow again, I put it in the garden. Hang on, just want to show everybody what a leek looks like so you know. Oops. Mine are growing beautifully in the garden. So a leek is a vegetable that looks a lot like a leek. Looks like this. Tastes like an onion. And literally, I cut the roots off the bottom about this much off the bottom, and keep it in water for a couple of weeks until I'm sure that you can see it starting to grow. Then I put it in the garden. So I'm going, could I live on leeks instead of onions? Yep. All right, so excellent, Nyasha. I am so glad that you are getting the help. And, learning to control your temper is going to be a very important part of your future. And, I am so glad you found us, because I believe that you will do this well. And now you're getting the help that you've always wanted. You're getting the help for your leg that you've always wanted. Can you see what a great job you have done just in the time we've known you? I hope you can see that even though it's uncomfortable, even though it's not the way you wanted it, you're getting the help that you wanted. And you're getting it because you grew up. I'm so proud of you. Jerry Goodkind said, "There is nothing that exists that has only one side. Even a piece of paper, thin as it is, has two sides." You see, I think Nyasha's story is very relevant. Sometimes we have to go through a lot of pain to get what we actually need to help us. For those of you who have family members that are addicted or whatever, so, the one thing I learned, I spent a lot of time in my life, you're probably not surprised, donating time to recovery centers, halfway houses, things like that. And I would talk to the people who were in recovery about how to let go of not being perfect. The most difficult thing is our perfectionism. And one thing I discovered when I talked to most of the people in prison, I spent a lot of time donating time to women prisoners. And I was amazed to find that so many of them actually came from a life of abuse. It actually shocked me. Not that I asked them, because you're not allowed to, but their stories came out time and time again. And I think that helped me see that it was really important to see both sides. The other thing I noticed was that for some prisoners, prison was a safe place where you could get medical treatment, 3 meals a day, and be social. And for some people, I watched it happen. I watched people intentionally make mistakes that would put them back in jail so that they could have that life. Scary, but true. And it made me realize I couldn't do it. I always used to have a funny cartoon on my desk, and it showed me, in prison going, this is my retirement plan, because it brings me all these things, right? And then I know some other people who literally spend their life, well, before this virus, but spend their life on cruise ships. Why? You got wall-to-wall help on cruise ships. All right, so Nyasha is saying, you telling me that I've grown is giving me the encouragement to seek after myself and well-being. That's why they aren't giving me that. Yeah, can you please explain? They never once encouraged me like you do. Well, Nyasha, I'm not your family. All right, I'm just a human being trying to look after another human being. And by the way, Nyasha, I learned very early on in my life that I can remember, Nyasha, when this came true to me, I went to do a self-development thing on management. And when I went into the classroom, it was way, way back, Nyasha. I'm talking 50 years ago. And when I walked into the classroom, I noticed I was the only female. And as I walked in, a guy at the front said to me, sorry, lady, you're in the wrong room. The PR people are next door. I said, really? So what's this group? And he said, this is the advanced management system or whatever. I said, oh, good, that's the one I'm booked in on. Anyway, so I don't know if some of you have heard me tell this story, but it was amazing because I was an ex-secretary, so I was taking shorthand. Anything that the guy up front was talking about, I was taking down in shorthand. And, you know, this is in the first 5 minutes, right? He said something, and I put up my hand because I had a problem with what he said, of course, you can imagine that. And when I put up my hand, he rolled his eyes and he stopped talking and he walked up and down just looking at me. And he said to the men, here we go. We've got a woman in the class, which means that I'm going to have to explain everything 3 times before they get it. All the guys are laughing and I'm feeling about this big. And she's never going to stop asking questions. And I guess we're just going to waste a lot of time. And I'm just like, wow. And then when he'd finished saying all of that, he said, so what's your question? I said, I've got a question. When you started, you said 1 and 1 equals 2 or whatever the principle was. And then about 5 minutes later, you said 1 and 1 equals 3. I just want to know, did I mishear you? And he burst out laughing. He said, no, ma'am. You heard me 100% and you took it down because I've been watching you. And the reason that you will succeed in life is because you are the only one that's really listening. And also, just for the record, you are the only one who paid for her own course. Everybody else in here is paid for by their company. You see, Nyasha, when we care about what we do, it's really different. You'll be pleased to know, Nyasha, that when we finish the course, I think I can show you. Hold on 1 second. Nyasha, when I finished the course, I got awarded this. I didn't just end up number 1 of my group, because you know I was determined to do that. Nyasha, I ended up getting the award for the best student of any business management course that they had that year. And from what I gather, I was the first woman ever to get it. So, you know, it's just like, Nyasha, when you take and you care about yourself, when you're prepared to see I screwed up here and I want to stop doing that, then life changes. Beth, great to see you, honey. So when you look at it, you go, when we become responsible, we change not only our life, but other people's as well. So that's why I'm proud of you, because you are going to end up helping yourself. And because of helping yourself, you're going to help your godchild. Well, you know, it is so funny because, Nyasha, I ended up on a board of directors with that same professor that was teaching that class. And he said to me, and he, by the way, he recommended that they put me on the board. he said, I've got this lady in my class that needs to be here because she will move mountains that we can't. and you know, it was so funny, Nyasha, because I ended up in this first board meeting and the chairman said chit chat, chit chat, chit chat. And then he called for a vote and everybody voted and it got to my vote. And I said, I'm not sure if I understand this, because I hear you all voting without any real discussion or without any real information. And the chairman said, that's because I've lobbied them all beforehand. I said, well, you didn't lobby me. And he said, no, I didn't dream for one moment that at your first board meeting that you would be in conflict in any way. And I said, which goes to show you don't know who I am. Therefore, I vote no. And he said, before we record that, I'd like to take a break. It turns out nobody had ever voted no to him. You know, we're just like, yeah, buddy, if you think, and by the way, he then, during the break, tried to convince me otherwise. And of course, now I'm, really a bit late. And when I went back, I insisted on having time to describe and to explain why I wanted to vote no. And the funny thing was, what happened by the time I finished? All right. And, the the chairman was devastated. He lost control. Why? Sal came. So, to me, this is like, I am not really a troublemaker that goes looking for trouble. I just don't like it when people presume that just because I'm new, I'm going to vote a certain way. Forget that. I will vote for what I believe is right. I might be wrong, but I'm going to vote for what I think is right. So, how about this one? John Locke said there are two sides and two players. One is light and one is dark. How many of you know that when you get to be really honest with yourself, which we try to be, that you're not really quite as nice as you pretend you are? One of the things I find really interesting is that I spend quite a lot of time getting people to take me off any sort of pedestal. And I go, you do need to know I'm just a human being coping with life the same as you are. I don't have a perfect life. I don't make all the right decisions. And, I have a temper. You can probably imagine. Some of you have seen it occasionally. I'm just not a perfect person. But I'm okay with it. And, when Nyasha, I lose my temper, I own it. But I've learned not to throw things or, stomp my foot like a 3-year-old. But I am allowed to get passionate about things. That's my right. And so I assure you, I got very passionate with the person that rang my doorbell and didn't move back when I went to open my door. I was, I went, you need to move back. No, I've just come to say hello. I don't care. You need to move back. You are not socially distant from me. And I can't open the door and be socially distant. Very difficult. I'm beginning to think when I go to the door now, I'm going to wear my mask. I'm just going to have a mask sitting next to the door so I can just put it up in case. I'm not going to take that risk again. Walter Cronkite, very well-known anchor, said, in seeking truth, you have to get both sides of the story. Yeah, Jeannie's saying here, I was the only girl in a summer algebra class with 10 guys. Wonderful teacher. Yep. I was the only girl later in my, not that much later, I guess, a couple of years after that event, I was the only girl in a class teaching radio hams. And it was amazing because of the 36 of us that started the class, only 12 of us took the exam. It was very interesting. And I failed it the first time, people, by this much. And then I worked really hard for 6 months and I passed it by this much. But what was the difference? Huge. I was now a radio ham with the greatest call sign I could possibly have. I didn't realize it, but they had been waiting for me to qualify so they could give me this particular call sign that was the ultimate call sign in the country where I lived at the time. In fact, it was such an ultimate call sign that people thought I was a troll. They didn't believe I'd actually been given that call sign. And I just had to keep saying to them, please feel free to contact the, you know, telephone, not telephone, but the controlling body that did that, and see whether they have recently issued that call sign. And when they tell you, yes, they have, you'll know why. It's mine. And it was so cute because once they realized I was telling the truth and I wasn't the troll, they kept inviting me to functions because you'll never guess what her call sign is, you know. And apparently they'd held on to this call sign for 15 years or something, a long, long time anyway, waiting for somebody worthy of the call sign. And you know, the funny thing was, the reason they gave it to me was because of something I did that was actually not 100% legal. You know, in South Africa at the time, being a CB radio person, not a radio ham, but a CB radio person in those days was not allowed. But I had this monumental aerial. And I spent my days hunting down people, you know, and it was so funny because the cops would actually come to me and say, we've lost children and our our aerial isn't as strong as yours, and could you help us? And I'd go, oh, you know about my aerial? Oh yeah, we've known about it since the day you put it up. But they ignored it because I did so much good work with the aerial. It was amazing when I think about it now. They could have thrown me in jail, but they never did. They just kept coming to me when they needed help. Isn't that funny? All right, so Niesh is saying, but I know probably they won't change. Good, but changing them isn't my concern anymore. All that matters to me now is that I better myself and my life and how to control my life around situations. Nyasha, with tears in my eyes. That is being adult. That is being adult, honey. Not blaming anybody. This is like, I need to cope. I want to learn more. Well done. Yeah. Wow. Is that right, Beth? KG4 NOR. I was Zulu Sierra 6 Yankee Lima. Which you couldn't buy that call sign if you tried. I've had to give it up, but just so you know, we have something else in common, Beth, and that doesn't surprise me at all. And for those of you who don't know, you know, becoming a radio ham is not easy. So well done, Beth. It tells me a lot more about you. Carl Jung said that wisdom accepts that all things have two sides. I want you to work really hard on that this week, everybody. See it from both sides now. All right, that's your new challenge. Everything that happens, yes, this person is taking a risk, but see it from both sides. You're going to need to feel sorry for some people that they can't see how risky their behavior is. And by the way, screaming and shouting at them is not going to change them. They're just going to laugh at you. Your job is to keep calm. All right? Your job is to keep calm. Your job is to be as safe as you can be, and that may not be possibly safe, but you can do your best. There will always be two sides to a coin if you have the patience to see them. Wow, Jeannie, you're thanking me for seeing both sides of which? I want to tell you, sometimes it's difficult, isn't it, Jeannie, to see both sides. I really don't succeed all the time, Jeannie, but I need you to know. I really do. And sometimes I'll come off a broadcast and ask myself, did I bother to see both sides of that story, or did I just react? And, you know, you probably don't see a lot of it, but Jody does. I will then spend, you know, time, you know, just processing for myself and going, there is a better way to answer that next time. Ayn Rand said, there are two sides to every issue. One side is right and the other is wrong, but the middle is always evil. You know, what if there isn't a right and a wrong? What if it's just your way of doing things versus my way of doing things? All right. I am working really hard at the moment to try and understand President Trump a lot better. I'm trying very hard. I keep asking myself, what if he is brilliant and I'm just not seeing it? You know, I keep asking myself that. What is he doing here? What is he trying? Whether I like how he's doing it is irrelevant, but what is he trying to do? Can I see that? And if I can see that, maybe I will understand it better. I really think he's changing the world, whether we like it or not, and it'll never be the same again. I believe that the US has lost power in the world quite significantly. But in a way, he doesn't care. And he doesn't care because he doesn't think that Europe is important to him, right? It's all about just America. Well, what are we going to do now when the whole world is starving? All right? Are we going to say not our problem? I know that we won't say that, right? I know that a lot of us will be going, how do I help in whatever small way? You see, maybe teaching people how to grow hydroponics is something that is some of you planted seeds. Some of you can see that maybe I can look after myself a little bit better and save some money that way. But I have to be prepared to fail at doing this to make sure that I learn how to do it. So that's why I tell you that I've had a couple of cantaloupes not make it. I've had, and by the way, the seeds of one cantaloupe will keep me going for about 5 years. I think I've grown too many chard seeds, and I don't really know what chard is. You know what I mean? It's like, I think you can eat it, but is it a vegetable or is it like something I can put in my salad? And I'm going, who's to say? I know that we used to have it on the farm. I can remember. Angelina Jolie said, people have two sides, a good side and a bad side, a past and a future, and we must embrace both in someone that we love. How about that? Right? When we can really, I think that is the ultimate of love, isn't it? When we can see each other's shortcomings and still love them. I want to thank you for that, by the way. Because, that is really what it's about. And the fact that we can all learn together. Yeah. Jeannie's just making a comment about President Trump, that he's trying to better the US by not apologizing for things. We try to help others, and he tries also. Sadly, he talks too much extemporaneously, which means, stream of consciousness stuff, when he should keep quiet. Yes, but it's who he is. What was it they said when he was running his first campaign? Let Trump be Trump, right? I think that's what the PR people kept saying. Just let Trump be Trump. Just get out of his way. Let him do it his way. And yeah, that's what they've done. And in a way, I have to say that he's making Europe stronger in lots of ways, because Europe will no longer rely on the US the way that they did, and they will close ranks more strongly, I think. And they will grow, as in any hardship. We will all grow from if we survive this pandemic, we will all grow, right, in different ways. Some of you already can feel that. David Lynch said, we all have at least two sides. The world we live in is a world of opposites, and the trick is to reconcile those opposing things. I've always liked both sides. In order to appreciate one, you have to know the other. The more darkness you can gather up, the more light you can see, too. Jeannie's saying that she also likes the First Lady, all right, who is always getting criticized. I think it's the name of the game of being First Lady. I don't think there has ever been a First Lady that wasn't severely criticized. Oh, maybe Jackie O, all right? Yeah, she maybe, but then you didn't have the paparazzi in those days, right? So I think it's the name of the game, unfortunately, today. And I think she's probably a very smart cookie. I would, but funny enough, I would quite like to meet her just to sit and find out what really. I don't know why that is of great interest to me, but it is. Um, and what made her go out without a mask on and take that risk when she has a son? I didn't understand that, to be quite honest. All right, so Niash is saying, I've heard you say and listen that you listen to both sides of whatever. And you also spoke about balance and stress. Sal, I'd like to know, does your life have to have balance in order for it to exist? No, no. I know an awful lot of people whose lives do not have balance that exist. I do believe if you want to be happy, truly happy, if you want to have serenity, then you have to be able to let go of control. You cannot control everything. And that is very difficult for us. We have to let go of the ego every now and then. David Suzuki said, we have two eyes to see two things from both sides, but there must be a third eye, which will see everything as the same and yet not see anything. That is to understand Zen. Now that's pretty deep. That basically says, regardless of what's happening here, regardless of what's happening here, my job is to stay centered and not be affected. Now, I've got to give Jody a heads up on this one. Why? Jody, I see you doing that so much better than when I first met you. I really see you, see the chaos going on around you, and you just go, this is what I need to focus on. And I want to, give you a big round of applause because it is magical to see. And by the way, a round of applause, for Jody to get her medications and everything in line again this year. How many hours did it take you to fill out the paperwork, Jody? Just give me a rough idea of how many hours it took. And by the way, I got the countdown ready. I know you're worrying. How many hours do you think it took? And the reason I want you to understand this is because she didn't fight it. She didn't spend all this time complaining about it. She kept telling me it took more than 15 hours. If you added up all the time, gosh, it sounded like it was a lot more than that. But it's a bit like the taxes, right? It took that much time to get all the bits of paper together and to fill in the right forms so that you can be free and get your medications. I think that's called supreme focus on just doing what needs to be done. Oh, you lost count past 15. Okay, so you kept count up to 15 and then you have no idea how many more hours you spent. Well, and the thing is, you just kept going until it was done. And you remember you kept saying to me that you really love that in my mentality when I have computer problems or whatever, that you always know that I'll keep going until I get it fixed. You see, you got it too. Hmm. For those of you who want to know and are romantic, you have 9 months and 4 days until Valentine's Day. And for those of you who love Christmas, you have only 223 days left to go. You have 6 months and 20 days to get your Christmas cards into the overseas mail. And those of you who are related in some way to the US, you have 6 months and 2 weeks until Thanksgiving. For those of us in Canada, we only have 5 months left because we have ours in October. For those of you who are doing taxes in the US, I believe you have 2 months and 1 day left to get your taxes in. For those of us in Canada, 17 days. For those of us north of the equator, we have 35 days left until summer. That means that autumn and winter are on the way. However, if you are south of the equator, you have 35 days until winter, which means spring and summer are on their way. And again, I would let you know that I moved into this house 4 months ago. It's a third of a year now. And, I know you're all saying, are you unpacked yet, Sal? Nowhere near. No. And it's even slowed down. And the reason it's slowed down is because, I don't really, most of it's going to be a problem now. I've unpacked the important stuff. I've now got boxes of stuff that I really do need to keep working through very slowly. And I've got the rest of my life to do that. That's how I look at it. And I'm trying to give myself permission to not rush it and not worry about it. And I'm actually considering now, I am, going to just put everything, just now tidy up the craft room and then only bring out 1 box a week. Close the door on it and just bring out 1 box a week, maybe 2. By the way, I've still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 boxes still in my dining room. It's about time for another one of those, isn't it? Maybe I'll do that one this evening. All right, so Nyasha's saying the broadcast was nice, always educational. I'll be forever a student of Dear Mama Sal because I'm learning so much. I think we all are, Nyasha. You need to understand it's not just you, all right? The whole point of doing Dear Mama Sal is so that we can all cope better. That is the goal. That's the only reason that I started it, was to hopefully help people cope. And I have always said, if I help just one person with every broadcast, it will be worth the effort. And so thank you, Nyasha. But I want to tell you, I am surely not alone in having tears in my eyes that you are going to get the help that you so rightfully deserve. And I really am sad that you had to really lose your temper to get it, but it's very important. Nyasha's saying, I think the method which I learn is different. Yes, we all have a different way of learning, Nyasha. Some people learn by reading. Some people learn by doing. Some people learn by seeing. And, I think, what is the right way? I don't know. I don't really care, as long as you keep learning. What I do know is every one of you that comes onto these skills broadcasts every week, I know that you want to keep growing as a human. And if you choose not to change, that's also okay. All right? At least you know. And I'm hoping that you're continuing to find interest in the topics. I want to tell you that It's Jody will tell you it's really strange because every week I go, what's going on in my life and where is the lesson in it? And literally, that is what I do. That is how I pick the subjects if I don't necessarily have one that particular that I want to go to. Yeah. So, Nyasha, one of the interesting things that there is on life is that we all need to hit sort of like a bottom and say that's enough. All right, before we start to grow. And you losing your temper the way that you did. All right. Um, that's enough. Right. And you know it and you can feel it. And now you're going to do something about it. And that's great. I just, to me, I'm just delighted that somebody's going to get you some help because you do deserve it. And by the way, Nyasha, from my experience, if you're smart, you'll spend the rest of your life learning this stuff. It doesn't take 6 weeks, right? It's a lifelong process. Jody's saying I'm always fascinated by Sal's creative process. Yeah, I really don't try to overthink it all too much, as you know. I literally go. You see, I think every week I have a lesson that I've been taught, and therefore the chances are that I can share that lesson, and maybe it'll help you as well. So I got to ask you the question: did any of you find any helpful moments in today's broadcast? And if so, what was important to you? Because you see, you're all going to get different things out of the same broadcast. Yeah, and Jody's saying, Nyasha, you're doing important work. I'm so happy you have this awareness. It'll change your life for the better. Nyasha's saying, I'm seeking this upon myself. My parents do not know I'm doing it, nor I doubt will they care. It's all about and upon myself. Okay. My question is, how do you get help online? I'm not sure, but I'm hoping that it's medically good. Okay, so let us know how it goes. And you understand sometimes, Nyasha, from my experience, it gets a little bit worse before it gets better. Okay. So you're going to find that they're going to ask you questions that are going to upset you. So I'd really encourage you to keep talking to us about, it's called a debrief. Have you heard that expression, Nyasha? Because sometimes what happens is they're going to ask you questions that are going to make you angry. And you're going to need to debrief that um, just so that you can work out what it's all about. I am just delighted to hear that just by showing you my little hydroponics and my seed growing stuff every week, has Jeannie trying something. You see, as I said, to me, it's an experiment. Can I grow enough food to keep myself in green vegetables or in salads? That's my first trick. Can I keep myself in salads? Um, because salad greens, because if so, I will not need to panic if we don't get too much lettuce coming up in the winter. That's what I'm scared of, is that in the wintertime we will not be planting now ready for the winter because we won't have the manpower. People are isolated. Jody saying many helpful moments. I appreciate the reminder of how important it is to see both sides of an issue and how keeping an open mind can facilitate our learning. More importantly, Jody, it can facilitate your release of stress. If you can say, you know, I can see both sides of it. I just realized when you can see both sides, you realize you can't control it either, and therefore it's less stressful. Well, Nyasha, the fact that you're working on it, and Nyasha's saying, I don't ever want to experience that behavior again. I want to stop it once and for all. I don't know how, but I hope this works. I would make it, don't ever quit. If you find that this doesn't work, keep going. I want to tell you that I kept repeating things that were not healthy for me. And I ended up in depression time and time again in my life, Nyasha. And then one day I said, like you, I said, that's enough. That is really enough. I don't want to be sucked into this anymore. And I started to really work on myself. And I didn't like some of the stuff I found about myself, to be quite honest. It wasn't that I was a bad person. I just didn't like some of the lies I was telling myself. And, for those of us who are part of the fitness group, it's quite easy. If I'm putting on weight, it's because I am putting the wrong things in my body. Right? I can't blame anybody else. And if my blood sugar goes up, it's because I'm putting too many carbs into my body, or sugar. I can't blame anybody else anymore. Okay? But what is interesting is whenever you see me start to report again, you know that I care about that. I might not like the figures that I'm putting up, but I am trying to control it. And I think that is what being healthy is. Jody has had a terrible week this week of being in pretty nasty pain. But it's always amazing to me what she manages to get done, even though she's struggling with it. And, I think Jody gets more done than a lot of us. She doesn't think she does, but, I do. And I'm entitled to my opinion. Now listen to this. You see, Jody's saying, I found that I really had regret for the time wasted not living my best life, engulfed in emotions and stress that did not serve me. Well, hello, Jody. Permission for the 2x4. For those of you who don't know, I'm about to tell Jody a truth that she probably won't like, but I need to check whether it's okay with her. Okay, here we go, Jody. Jody, listen to this. I had regret for the time I wasted not living my best life. What if that time, Jody, you needed to live so that you could learn those lessons? And how does it serve you to think of that as wasted time? I don't think it was wasted time at all. I think that was time you were in the process of getting ready to learn. That is my view. The same way as people have said to me, why do you do the broadcast? Isn't it a total waste of your time? And I go, I don't think so. No. If I thought that doing the broadcast was a total waste of my time, do you think I'd be doing them? You see, you and I both know that we never know who needs to hear what we're talking about today. But I do know one thing. I hear about it eventually. Right? Somebody will say to me, I remember that broadcast you did about differences and seeing both sides. And, I wasn't talking during that broadcast, but I heard it. And I want to tell you, it really changed my life. I go, I guess that was worth doing then. So, to me, we don't always get the instant reward. Jody, to me, I don't believe that there was a bad time in my life. I think it was getting me ready to do what I do today. And I want to tell you something, Jody. I am really glad that you took the time that you took and that you found me, because if you hadn't been there when I got diabetes as a warning, or pre-diabetes, I would not be under control the way that I am able to, because you taught me so much. So imagine if I hadn't met you. You understand, if you'd got smart way earlier, I'm very selfish. I would not have met you. And Jody's saying, I appreciate that perspective. It was learning, yes. It made me who I am now, and I will work looking back with gratitude instead of regret. Thank you. By the way, if you hadn't done all of that, you wouldn't have met Lionel either. Think about that. You see, I believe that we just are in today. Be grateful for everything that brought you to today. We don't understand it half the time. I'm listening to the neighbor and, building, building that box that he's building. And I choose, right, to either be aggravated by it or be amused by it. And you know why I'm amused by it? You see, he's building a new one of the thing of mine that has just broken. You remember I said to you there was this, raised bed of mine where the sleeper ties had popped out because of the severe frost. Well, he's building a new one. So what do I know? He's an expert at building them. And so guess what I said yesterday? I've got a choice here. I can bring somebody in to fix it. Somebody I don't know and don't trust and doesn't have attention to detail, as you obviously do, or I could pay you. Which would you prefer? And his wife looked at me and said, he'll be doing it. You see, I would happily pay him to do it, right? Because he's a doer. Every day he's out doing something. Literally, he loves to be outside the house and he loves to be doing something. I got so many things he can do for me. And so, you see, you remember we said, there has to be a reason why I came here. Well, I keep finding it every day. And I'm just grateful to be who I am, where I am, how I am. And so my big wish for you all is please this week concentrate on seeing both sides. Whatever happens that gets you going a bit, raises your blood pressure, right? Just think, wait, I need both sides. I'm only seeing it from one side. Let me see it from the other side. Calm down. Once you calm down, go, hey, does it really matter? But there are going to be some things, that you're going to stand up and go, yes, this really matters to me and it's important to me. Yeah. Then you may pay the price, as I did with the guy with the chow, who obviously, thinks I'm the wicked witch, and that's okay. If he wants to believe that, that's fine. But the reason he believes that is because he didn't control his dog. But I will get the blame for it. That's life. This is DearMamaSal saying, remember to see both sides. Remember that everybody is responsible for their own behavior. You're not responsible for somebody else's. And most of all, thank you for being here. Jody, thank you for the great work you do in being the admin. This is DearMamaSal saying, please remember to look after one another, but please, please, please remember to look after yourself. Bye-bye for now. Any minute now, when I work it out. Because, it takes a few presses of buttons and things. So we'll see you this evening. Bye for now.